welcome, welcome, welcome. I am.
Did you say Viviant?
Oh, there's me talking. Sorry.
Vivian.
So I am here with Jen Viviant and Ellie Maher. Do you say Mar or Maher?
I hear it every way, so
Okay.
it doesn't matter.
My level 3 colleagues, and we're talking about from soul to source today, like the whole hierarchy of this spirit world and how does this thing work? So, welcome, 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 everybody. Jen, would you introduce yourself for the group? Where are you? And most importantly, how'd you get into this QHHT thing?
Oh boy, what a mixed bag of amazement. I'm currently practicing in New York City. From right now, I'm talking to you in Michigan at my parents' house. And I received just information that I was going to get the right modality when it was time. So about 10 years, 15 years ago, maybe even 20. And so I let it rest and I, forgot about it. And then about 5, 6 years ago, it just jumped right into my lap and said, oh, okay, this is it. This is time. And I just went full throttle into it because I'd gotten that message before that it would just come when it was time.
Cool. Way cool. And so then you were very like psychically connected, intuitive before QHHT?
I would say so. Maybe not trusting to the fuller extent that I now do. Boy, did I learn a lot about trust with QHHT.
Oh, well, go. I want to hear this story. What do you mean?
Well, you know how it's like you practice what you preach, right? And you're telling your clients that you need to trust, you need to trust. And then you go back to your life and you realize, wow, I'm not really actually doing that for myself. I would just ignore and critique and critique. And I'm like, wait, this is the exact same thing I tell my clients. So as soon as I start, anytime, that critical mind starts jumping in, I just say, okay, got to go back to what I was thinking before, because that was something real. And this is what I'm telling my clients, and they seem to be doing well with it. So I'm going to take my own advice.
Very good. Very good. Well, welcome today.
Thank you.
I'm glad I was intuitively led to have you intuitively be led to today.
Well, yes, thank you so much for the invitation. This is really wonderful. I'm getting to know you better too.
Ellie, tell us about you. Where are you and how'd you get into all of this business?
The business. So I'm in Fargo, North Dakota, and everyone always asks, the same Fargo from the movie? And yes and no, they didn't film it there. I think they actually filmed it in like some other small town in North Dakota. But anyway, all roads led to this for me. My whole life I've been into this stuff. I've always been that kid in the family. Luckily, I had a very supportive mother who encouraged all of my lines of thinking. And then the past life regression, I guess I had my own session through a different modality many years ago. I didn't even know about Dolores Cannon, which when I found her, it was, I think, on some Netflix special. I literally typed in a search for like past life regression, and Dolores popped up, and I'm like, who's this lady? And how come I have not heard from her before? It was so strange how it happened, but also not, right? We know that she finds us when we're supposed to. So, yeah, and then once I discovered her, holy cow, the floodgates opened, and then I kept getting the sign like, you need to learn this, learn this, learn this. And the minute I started to, I'm like, okay, level 3 is where it's at. I knew that this was going to be my trajectory. And here I am with you guys. So,
Yay. Yay, Dolores.
hey, Dolores.
Cool. Way cool. So our subject today is from soul to source, mapping the layers of your spiritual identity. So exploring the soul, source, and spiritual support system. And I get this question, I'm sure you guys do. Within the client's list of questions, there'll be, well, who are my spirit guides? Well, or they'll have some sort of relationship. They'll think they have some sort of relationship with an archangel, or maybe they have some sort of psychic connection or medium type connection with a grandmother or a grandfather that's already passed, all of these different kinds of connections with spirit. And so what we thought about talking about today is just this, well, how do you figure out what's the difference between an archangel and a spirit guide? Like what's the difference between higher self and soul and this, is there a difference, right? And how does that all work, right? So Jen, what do you think? So let's just start. So in QHHT, just for people that don't know about QHHT. So it's Dolores Cannon's method of hypnosis. It's a very intense way of approaching hypnosis. You in a QHHT session, they're 5 to 7 hours. You come in with all the questions you want to ask what Dolores called the SC, or the subconscious or the superconscious. We spend a couple of hours making sure that the facilitator, that the practitioner understands all those questions, understands the context around the questions. And these are questions about physical health, emotional health, life decisions, past, present, future. It doesn't matter. All the questions. And then we go into hypnosis, and the hypnosis alone is 2 to 3 hours. And that's where the practitioner is having a conversation with this SC person, whatever that is. We're going to talk about what that is. So with what Dolores would call the SC. And all that's audio recorded, and then the practitioner will bring you out of trance, and the SC will have answered all of your questions. And then the facilitator might debrief a little, but then you have that recording of that conversation. And the most important part, I think, of a QHHT session is that you then listen to that recording over and over and over and over again. I'm still working with a recording of myself in hypnosis from 12 years ago. I still get good info out of it. So that recording and the listening after is the big work. So Dolores, and in all of Dolores's books, and she only wrote 21 books. So if you're not familiar with Dolores Cannon, just go to Amazon and search Dolores Cannon books. And she wrote about everything from ETs to Jesus to Nostradamus, like all over the place, all based on her hypnosis experience. And hi, Meredith. And so prolific. And in her books, she calls this entity that she speaks with in hypnosis the SC. Back in the early 80s, late 70s, when she first started this, she meant the SC to stand for subconscious, not what Freud was talking about from the subconscious. Later on in the QHHT world, we kind of use SC as super consciousness, not subconsciousness. But I personally don't even like that term. I use the term higher self. That just resonates with me. But if you're reading a Dolores Cannon book, she's going to refer to it as the SC. So, with all of that explanation, Jen, who do you think we're talking to in a QHHT session? How would you describe this thing?
That's a great question. It seems so individual, doesn't it? I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head when you're talking about how Dolores is going into all these hypnosis sessions with such varied subjects happening throughout. The entire thing was being done with the same exact technique. So, and she was the same person. She was receiving all this various knowledge and information from various people.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it feels very much like it's belief based, it's belief system based.
Mm-hmm.
And so it feels very strongly to me that I get to know I get to know my client well enough to understand their belief systems and work within that.
Mm-hmm.
And because in a sense, we don't really know what's out there. We can't say we know for sure, but we know something is. And that something has so many names. In fact, I don't remember if you mentioned that, but Dolores said that it didn't care what it was called.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't care. You could call it the SC, whatever. You could call it chopped liver if you want, or so. And some people really prefer God, and some
Uh-huh.
people really prefer higher consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And some people see their grandmother
Mm-hmm.
or an ET, and I don't think it matters. I think what matters is that if there's an emotionally strong connection to wherever that information is coming from, then we go with it. And if there comes a point where it needs to escalate to a higher dimension, you can, if there's maybe grandma doesn't have any more information, you can ask.
Mm-hmm.
Frequently we'll ask in sessions, well, if you don't know the answer to this question, is there someone who does? Could we go to someone else? And then sometimes, I guess my answer is completely vague on purpose.
Yeah. 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 Ellie, what do you think?
Yeah, it's everything.
Yeah.
It's what I'm tapping into, what they're tapping into, what you're tapping into. It's all the same thing, right? Like we're pulling that information from wherever it needs to come from. So like higher self, source, spirit guides. Well, spirit guides, I guess I have different thoughts about that too, right? But yeah, the higher self and the SC, it's all the same thing. It's just that source knowledge. It's where we all came from. It's where supposedly we all go back to,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
wherever we need.
That Jen, your answer reminded me of a client I had years ago who was was still very devout Christian that came in for their QHHT session, which is fine. None of this like negates any sort of Christian belief systems. And she asked me, would I please use the term Holy Spirit? And so I did.
Mm,
I'm like, they don't care. I don't care. It's the same. Yeah,
yeah,
Holy Spirit,
Yep.
why not? Those are words.
right. That's very flexible.
Yeah. One of the things I started doing a few years ago, I have like a standard list of questions at the end of the session that are my questions, not the client's questions. So I always ask, are there any questions we should have asked that we didn't? Just sweep the corners. Um, what advice do you have for Mary of how to connect with you after today? Right. And then of course, always the very, very last question, do you have any parting words for Mary? Right. So I have like this little tiny list of just sweeping the corners kinds of questions. And one of those questions is, who are you?
Mm,
How would you describe yourself to Mary? And I love how poetic the answers always are. And they aren't the same thing. They don't say soul. They never say higher self. They never say spirit guide or anything like that. They'll say things like, I am the eternal part of her, or I am the truth part of him, or I have always been with him. I will always be with him. They'll give some sort of like poetic answer about describing themselves. And it's never like a label like we use a label.
Yeah.
I
the
love
not
that.
like, I'm the cat that lives under her bed, or Yes, it's always something awesome.
Yeah. 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 So cool. So cool. I do think, though, the other thing, Ellie, that you were bringing up, I do think it's interesting to think about SC as super consciousness because it does kind of get us out of this paradigm of because I always use written 3 books talking about the higher self, and I say the higher self, not my higher self, right? Because when you talk to the higher self or whoever, whatever we want to call them, they don't seem to see themselves as like
Right.
separate things, separate entities. Like it's kind of all, I say, think jello, not concrete. It's kind
Right.
of wiggly over there of what's one aspect versus another aspect.
Mhm.
So I like that idea of super consciousness because it is all just consciousness.
Right. If we can all tap into whatever knowledge we need, I mean, there has to be a connection in there. Some like how we're all connected, right? Like you
Yeah,
can literally ask whatever you want in a session, and if you're supposed to know, you're going to find out.
right,
So
right.
we're all connected.
Which also gets back to the whole Dolores was talking to, Sudi, who was the teacher of Jesus, and Nostradamus and ETs, because they're also all connected on the other side. It's
Yeah.
just,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Ellie,
And
you
all,
have a fan online, Kimberly. She
oh,
says hello. I'm a big fan of Ellie, so
oh,
she's saying hi on the chat. So
awesome. Hi, Kim. I love you,
if you're
Kim.
if you're online, and there are many people online who have not introduced themselves, please introduce yourself in the chat and ask us a question, and we'll give you an answer. Okay, so I'm just going to use the term SC just because that we started there with Dolores's work, whatever you want to apply the S and the C to. Um, how is that related to God or source? Or is it God or source? Is it the same or is it different? Ellie, what do you think?
I think one and the same because
Mhm.
I essentially feel like we are that God source energy, right? Like we all are that. So we are all the same oneness, higher self. Goes back to what we were just talking about, how like we tap in and you can access whatever you want because we're all connected, because we're all that same thing.
Mhm.
We're all of one and we just came from that.
Mhm. Yeah. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah. It's funny. I do think it's like it's a fragment of the one. There's the one, and then
Mhm.
there's the SC, which is a fragment of the one. And
Mhm.
so it's the one. Um, and I don't know why I make that distinction. But I was called to say that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
somehow, because I guess because we're in our human form here, and when we're communicating, we have to communicate through human form. And that the SC allows us to drop that information in, whereas the whole gamut, how is it going to get in here? I think it allows us to have that oneness in a digestible amount. It's all the
Mm.
same to me, um, in a way that like allows it to be not exploding our bodies.
Yeah. So
Right.
I actually I asked this in a session once with my dear friend Laura Di Piazza, who channels the Council of 12. And
This is curious. I'm very interested
yeah,
now.
so here's how they explained it. Here's how the Council of 12 explained it. So they used the term sparks. So they said source created sparks, which we can think about like sub elements of source, in order to know itself better. Okay. So if you think about, well, why does any of this exist? Like, let's go with the really big questions. Why does reality even exist at any level, spiritual or inform or otherwise? And it's just God knowing God, the source having experience for the sake of the experience. And source could have different experiences if it had different sparks, their word, not mine, of itself. So it sparked other aspects of itself. And then it allowed those sparks to create more sparks. So there is kind of a lineage or hierarchy of sparks creating sparks. And I wrote about this in my latest book. It's not out yet. Finding Gratitude. It's any day now. But another analogy that I like to use is the difference between a forest, a tree, and a nut. And so if you think about a forest, so let's say there's 7 million trees in the forest, but they can't procreate. They can't create new trees. So at some point in time, all of the possible experiences of those 7 million trees is going to come to an end. Like, and I'm, gazillions of experiences. This tree sways that way. That tree sways this way. This tree grows this limb. That tree grows this limb. So think about the billions and gazillions of experiences those 7 million trees could have, but it's limited. because there's only those 7 million trees. But if the trees can create new trees, if they can have nuts, okay, then it's infinite, because now there's new trees that have new experiences, and then those trees have new trees that have new experiences, and then those trees have new trees that have experiences, and life goes on infinitely, infinitely large, the amount of experiences are. So the need to procreate and differentiate then allows source to have different experiences over time, and then allows this concept of infinity, source having experiences for the sake of the experience. When different aspects of source can be procreated, the sparks can be created, then the envelope of experience expands. Does that make sense?
I always explain to my clients almost that exactly. I always tell them like your soul, like our one soul goes and splits into like 1,000 different pieces, right? And then each fragment has its own journey of reincarnations.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's always at the end though, I'm like, well, I mean, do we really know what happens when they all reach the end of their reincarnation cycle? Is there an end? Does it just
Yeah.
keep going? Does it come back together as
Yeah.
a whole, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the fragments, the sparks, pretty
Yeah.
cool.
The sparks. I love that. The sparks.
Yeah.
Also, too, it just kind of, the whole idea of light, and light being reality and sparks being light. And like, oh my God, they're so brilliant. Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty
We've got
amazing.
comments. So Emma says, hi, ladies, enjoying your gorgeous energy and saying hi. My favorite answer to who you are is we are love. Oh, cool. That's way cool. And Kimberly says she was just reading about the sparks in the book, The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield. I haven't read that one. Have you guys read that one? Celestine Prophecy.
No,
Yeah.
I know of it. I don't think I've ever actually read it though. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
same.
supposed to be pretty good.
Yeah, people mention it a lot.
Yeah. And I also get that answer, to my question at the end there of who are you? Who's talking? Who have I been talking to for the last 2 hours? And they sometimes the answer will be, well, I'm the part of her that is connected to source.
Amazing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, interesting. Okay, so what's the difference with spirit guides, angels, helpers, dear past loved ones, all the other people, use that term loosely, that are out there?
Mhm.
Are they different?
No, I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna start off with I frequently get well, that also brings up this idea in my mind. Some people get very fixated on ideas of entities, and I wonder if there's any difference sometimes with spirit guides and entities.
Mm.
But that aside, it feels very frequently like some people have more of a presence of those of said spirit guides, or I guess ancestors or angels. And again, I think it just keeps going back to belief system.
Mm.
Uh, and or, maybe it was a contract, a situation that you came in with saying you're going to be in, you'll be able to communicate with us, with
Mm.
these folks,
Mhm.
or you won't be communicating this time around. This one's on you.
Mm. Mhm. We're going to be quietly listening over here in the corner, right? Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess I tend to see them as just little nudges, like little guide is a great word versus like the big all oneness,
Mm.
because guide is really part of that, because
Mhm.
everything is part of it, but it's just a little bit of a, informed content from this one thing kind of helping along
Mhm.
to stay on track.
What do you think, Ellie?
I always think that's a fun question when it comes up in sessions, and you guys know it comes up in almost every session, right? They all want to know their spirit guides, and why not? And I always think it's pretty cool to see who their team is.
Mhm.
And it could be anything, like maybe one client has all family members as spirit guides that step in, and then maybe someone just has like entities from other planets or the angel energy. But yeah, I totally agree, Jen. Like it's based on belief system and how they come through, what comes through. I do believe they are different. Uh, It's a tricky question too, right?
Because it's Jello, not
It
concrete.
is. You're
Yeah.
right. That is what it is. It is a Jello. It's got wiggle room. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I have a spirit guide that I communicate with regularly in meditation, and he's a mantis being. He's enormous and very wise. And if I have questions, then I know who to go to because he's like super smart. But I also know that at the same time, he's an aspect of me, and I'm an aspect of the all. So, like, I don't get too terribly hung up on, oh, my spirit guide is a mantis being. It's like, he shows up as a mantis being. I show up for myself as a mantis being. Source shows up for me as a mantis being. I have a mantis being aspect that helps me, but it's jello, not concrete.
Right. I love the mantis, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
good one to have around.
And then I also, and you guys, if you've listened to any of these other lives, this isn't news. I've talked about him a lot, but I have this ET that I talk to with a pendulum named Pladar. He's on a mothership hovering somewhere up there right now. But he's unseen to me, but yet, so that's the definition of spirit is just unseen, right? It's that simple. Spirit is unseen. Like quantum particles are spirit because they're unseen. Um, but um, but I communicate with him via the pendulum, have great conversations, lengthy conversations, a relationship with him. He's in form. I can't see him, right? I can't see him right now. It's not appropriate for me to see him right now with my actual eyeballs. Um, but we can have this great relationship and this communication, form person to form person, but it's not seen. Does that make sense? Which is spiritual, because spirit just means unseen.
Right. Through the veil, through another dimension, and different energies, different vibrations.
Yeah.
Yep. Not this dense
Yeah.
3D stuff here.
And I asked him one time, so I'm on the pendulum and I asked him, like, how are we communicating? Like, how does this work? And he said, quantum field.
Yeah.
We're just
Yep.
communicating through the quantum field. I'm like, oh, okay. Well,
That's cool.
you guys know how to do that. I don't, but cool.
Right.
I got a pendulum. That's all I got.
And I guess one thing that's really fun and surprising for a lot of clients is when they discover that they didn't know they had a being such as what you're describing, an ET or something of a spirit guide with a name of, and some sort of a temperament that they didn't realize. And then that's when it really hits home for them that there's something out there that's real, and they couldn't have made it up.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't something they were coming in believing at first.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's funny how belief system has that caveat, because when you're really open-minded and curious and let anything come through, simply because you're willing to trust the first thing that comes to mind, you can deepen your understanding of your connection with the all.
Yeah.
In surprising ways.
Well, and I think some of these helpers, they're yelling, they're trying to communicate. And if your belief system doesn't allow you to hear, you're kind of missing out, right? I mean, like I think of the example, my husband's great grandfather, who he actually grew up with, like in the household with, it was more like a grandfather or even a father, um, smoked cigars. And when he knows the smell of cigars, when there's no cigars around, is his great grandpa, showing his presence. But if your belief system doesn't allow for that, well, somebody was smoking a cigar at some point in time. That's, you kind of shut that down for yourself, right?
It's
Yeah.
too bad too, because they're
Yeah.
really trying to get through. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if someone wanted to connect with spirit guide, what advice do you have for them? How do you get to know those helpers? What do you think,
Ask.
Ellie?
Ask.
Yeah.
Just ask, and it's there. When you,
Mhm.
just like you said, you have the open mind, you'll see it. It's there. Whether you hear it, you see it, however it's coming at you, but all you have to do is ask.
Mhm. Yeah.
And trust.
And trust. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the
And
biggest thing.
listen.
Yes. All those.
Yeah. Yeah, ask, trust, and listen because it's
Yep,
subtle. It's super subtle. You
yep,
can't if you're busy with the day, they're going to stay out of your hair, right? Because this is a dimension of free will. And so if you don't ask, right, Ellie, then
yep, yep.
we're going to stand over here in the corner and just watch.
I think the asking part too has really played a big part in my life, even in the last few months, realizing how easy it is. It's like
Mm-hmm.
literally for anything, just ask. Like
Yeah,
it's right there, your answer is right there. Just trust it. It's coming at
yeah,
you. Just pay attention.
yeah, yeah. But a
Amazing.
lot of people, what with the problem I see in clients with that is, um, they'll ask for something and then they'll have the human monkey suit expectation that the answer is going to be a certain way.
Right. Right.
And then they'll miss it. They'll miss the answer because it's like I had a client who asked for she came into her session. It was kind of funny, but not. She was very frustrated. She had been asking for years for abundance and had, done all of the, new agey, spiritually kind of stuff to ask for abundance and yet she was struggling. And she had 5 children.
She had
And,
abundance.
and she was pregnant with another.
Oh, wow.
It's like
Yep.
they were giving her abundance.
Right. Right. It doesn't look like you think it looks like sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like you
Oh.
might want to be a little more specific about what kind of abundance you want.
Right, right.
I have this, it's called a blessings bowl. You guys familiar with that at all? So, I took some class connecting to angels actually, and it was really cool. I met a bunch of different angels, but at the end of the class, she had us bring a bowl to this class, and then she put energy into it and calls it a blessing bowl. So now, anytime you want to manifest something, you write it down on a piece of paper, put it in the bowl. So just last night, I was going through my bowl and like, taking out the pieces that have already come to be.
Oh, so you keep the paper in there, like
Yes,
for a
until it
while. Okay.
happens,
Okay.
until it manifests, and
Okay.
then you can take
Okay.
it out.
Okay.
So, but last night I was reading through some of them that were still in there, and I'm looking at my wording, and I'm like, oh, I need to change that because like it needs to be literal sometimes, like
Yep.
words matter. Words are vibration, right? So like just pay attention to how you're asking too, right? The
Yes.
words and the verbiage that you're using and your intention behind what you're actually asking
Hmm.
for. And I'm not saying ask for something to happen, just maybe ask for an answer, right?
Right.
Like it doesn't have to be substance. It can just be a thought or a feeling,
Yeah.
whatever you need to come to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I think that's the most important part of any sort of manifestation is clarity of your own intention. That's the
Mhm.
homework I mean, think about it. They're not in 3D. They're not here. They don't have the slightest freaking clue of what you need. You're here. Your job is to know what you need. You got to do your homework, right? Before you ask, like, what do you need? They don't assume that they even know what you need, right?
Mhm. And it can't be that easy, right? Like we're here to do the work too,
Yeah.
unless it's a resting life and it's
Yeah.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
But
And so what do you need? Well, that's homework. Sometimes it's not obvious what you
Mhm.
need at that moment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it definitely you have to take some time and do a lot of check-ins throughout, a course of time, any amount of time, say 2 months, say 6 months, but at regular intervals decide, okay, it's Sunday, I'm gonna check in, or it's the first of the month, I'm gonna check in, and just look at what you're asking, because coming through time and looking at it again can help understand what it was that you were asking in a more clarified way. And
Hmm.
maybe sometimes we just have to live the experience of life to get to the point of knowing what our questions are.
Yeah.
Totally.
Maybe we have to live finding out what we don't want to know what we do.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a trial. It's such a huge experiment.
Yep.
Yeah. I had this woman years ago. I wrote about her in the first book, Finding Purpose. So she comes into her session and she has this question about financial abundance. She was a home healthcare aide for elderly clients, which is not a very well compensated role in our society. It should be, but it isn't. And she goes, Holly, I don't understand. Like, I pray for the rent to be paid every month. And she went off and listed all these miracles of just checks dropping in the mail, like money coming from weird places, barely scraping by, but somehow the rent was always paid in these weird ways sometimes. And she goes, but I'm sick of it. Like, I don't want to just only have enough to pay the rent. So we get into session, and I'm talking to the higher self. And I said, so what advice do you have for her for financial abundance? And they said, we don't understand. Like, we're giving her financial abundance. And I and they said, well, that's not her perception. She asks for the rent to be paid every month, and that's all she gets. And they go, yeah, she asks for the rent to be paid every month, and we give her the rent paid every month. And I'm like, oh, well, on her behalf, I'm just going to ask for not the rent to be paid, but for her to have this beautiful, happy, healthy home shelter that she never has to worry about again. Can you give her that? Like, yeah, we can give her that. So get this. You guys know our clients never contact us after the session or rarely. So 9 months after a session, it was like a long time. I kind of have forgotten about her and the whole thing. But she emails me and she goes, Holly, you're not going to believe what happened. So one of her elderly clients passed and he willed her his house free and clear.
That gave me goosebumps.
A
Awesome.
house, a whole house. Okay. So my thought is that day in her session that there's all of these spiritual agreements that said, well, yeah, sure, of course we can give her a happy, healthy home that she never has to worry about. But the guy, the higher self of the guy, the client of hers, had a little more work to do, right? So it took a little bit of time to get the plan in motion, 9 months. But there it was, a whole house. So if you ask for the rent to be paid, the rent's going to be paid.
Right. Be specific.
Ask for a house. Ask for what you
Right.
really want. Do
Or
your
I should
homework.
say be less specific, right?
Or know what you really want. Know
Yes.
what you really want. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. All right, we got comments. So Kimberly says, my belief system changed after doing a past life regression session with Ellie. Ah, yay.
Kim.
Awakening. It really opened me up. And Sam and Colby fan say Ellie. Ellie. You have lots of fans tonight, Ellie.
Yes, yay.
Woohoo,
Well, hi,
yay.
everyone. I'm supposed to say hi to my daughter too if she's on here. She's like, Mom,
Okay.
you have to say hi to me. So hi, Pepper.
Okay. Cool. Way cool. All right. What about angels and archangels? Are those different? What do you think, Jim?
I'm gonna say that one still remains a little bit elusive to me, personally. And I find that I really love it when people come in with total conviction about their connections with archangels and angels. I love it because I don't have that conviction, but I'm very curious about it.
Mm.
It hasn't been something that's resonated with me, so maybe I haven't really thought about it as much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it seems like it's different,
Mm-hmm.
but what's different about it, I don't know, because they still answer questions the same way when they want to. They ask, what does my archangel have, Archangel Michael have to say to me, or what does my angel blah 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 have to say to me. I know I have this person, or they find out they have these people in their lives that they didn't realize, and they're giving them information. I don't know what the difference is, so I'm going to throw that out there.
I do. I
Uh, what,
asked. I asked.
what was the difference?
Angels, archangels are completely different, and they're an archetype, a phenomenon. I mean, are they real? Are they not real? Again, to your point, Jen, it goes back to your belief system of what's the difference between an archangel and an angel. But an angel, the way humans conceive of it, is one of those sparks that's never incarnated into form. They have always been formless. So that's what the
Hmm.
higher self said, is an angel, the way they intend for us to interpret this concept of angel, it's just a spark that's never incarnated in form. It's always been formless.
So it starts as a spark.
It's oh yeah, well, yeah, it's all sparks. But yeah, yeah, there's sparks that have never incarnated into form. And there's usually some sort of purpose about that, of them never having experienced form, of only experienced formlessness.
I have kind of a cool story related to the angel thing because I've always been connected to that myself. And actually, I got a couple stories about that. Where do I begin? So during one of my own sessions, in fact, I've been listening to that the last 2 nights now for some reason. It's been coming up. So back to what you were saying, Holly, you are continuing to get information from yours. I do too all the time. I still listen to them. But so I asked during my session what my connection was to the angel, and what I saw was so I have a specific connection to Azrael. He's like the death angel, angel of death, but like that just has to do with the mediumship stuff and crossing over and that kind of
Mhm.
thing. But what I saw was, are you guys familiar with the image of like when you look at the earth and you see it turning in the sun, and so the side that's not in the sun, all the different lights are on.
Oh, uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So like that.
Uh-huh.
So that's what I saw. And I saw all the lights all over the earth of all these different aspects of these archangels. So these archangels
Oh.
have their aspects on the ground in human form. And so what
Mhm.
I was seeing was all of those. So it wasn't the archangels themselves on the
Oh.
ground, it
It
was
was the
their.
sparks of the angel.
Yes. And there was so many of them, and it was so cool to see.
Very
But
cool.
yes, that makes sense with what you're talking about too. They can't be here, but they have their aspects that
Mhm.
work with them, for them, helping them, getting their messages through
Mhm.
on Earth. Yeah, it
Way
was really,
cool.
yeah.
Way
Oh,
cool.
this is fascinating. This just goes to show when you're curious about something, how much information you can get. Both of you have received so much illuminating
Mhm.
information. You're teaching me about
Yeah.
angels and archangels right now.
Oh man.
Well, I mean, that's the cool part of what we do. Like, it's
Right.
like, oh my
Let me
God.
throw another spin in for you guys, because I
Yeah.
can't not say this. So I don't know how many of you know that tattooing is my other thing, right? But all tattoos have to do with past lives. So when you find people who have like angel wings tattooed on them, there is a very good possibility that they have something to do with that.
Oh,
So
wow.
pay attention.
Oh, way cool.
Yeah.
Way cool. Way cool. All right. So Meredith says, Blue Star Seed says, I have a really hard time with angel. Formlessness makes more sense. Yeah. Yeah. And isn't, I mean, ugh. Back to your point, Jen, your belief system. Sometimes we really do need to clean up our belief systems, because a lot of us received some early childhood programming that was really fear-based, corrupted, dark, not truth, about control and fear and those kinds of things. And so, yeah, sometimes the words get bogged down with all those things, all those feelings.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that bringing it up that way reminds me of so many times sessions have gone that direction, where somebody wants to ask about a question that's a fear-based question, and it turns out they find out that there's nothing there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, that's
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the dark ones, right? And I love Julia Cannon had the best, like she did this on one of I think it was on the metaphysical hour, but then I had the lovely pleasure of presenting with her at a conference and repeated it. And I'm like, yes, that is like that. That's some, because people want, oh, I have an attachment. Oh, I have a negative entity. Oh,
attachments.
I need to be healed. And so this is how Julia put it. She said to this person that was asking about the negative entity, she goes, the negative entity isn't attached to you. You're attached to it.
Mm.
Wow. Mic drop.
Yeah.
Yes,
Total.
exactly.
Yep. That totally makes sense.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, I need fear. Oh, I need to play with fear. Oh, I need to
Right.
see scary for the drama, for the, for the excitement, for the whatever story you're trying to create for yourself. You
I always,
create.
I always tell my clients I don't deal with the dark. Like I just
Mhm.
don't. I have
Good.
no interest in any of that, you
Yeah.
know? It's like give me the light. Bring all
Yeah.
that light in here, but the dark
But
can
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had lots of QHHT sessions where the higher self said, "Oh yeah, she has this negative energy. We need to release it." Boom, done. It's like not drama. It's not a big deal. It's not like "Woo."
right.
It's just like releasing cancer or fibromyalgia or whatever else is going on.
It's
It's
kind of like you're just walking down the street and you picked up some mud on your shoe.
yeah,
You just
exactly.
you're just letting go
Exactly.
of it. And it's not like we can't walk through this whole life without picking up a little bit once in a
Mhm.
while. So it's just knowing knowing it for what it is and not thinking that it's something that now you have this thing stuck to you. No, it's
Right.
it's there temporarily and you can just let it go anytime.
Yeah, it's not a
Go
big deal.
wash it off.
You're attached. If you think you have a negative entity and oh my God, you have to run to some sort of ceremony or healing, you're attached to it. It's not attached to you. I'm like,
You know, okay, so a question that I frequently have been I'll follow up that this conversation if I have a client who's really gung ho about their attachment. Um, what's it? How are you benefiting from
mhm, mhm,
that
mhm.
attachment? So let's talk about that. And I'll ask C too and find out what's going on there because
Mm,
usually then we can kind of deconstruct it if
yeah,
their conscious mind is too clamped onto it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And and I know you guys have had clients that have gone to other lives that not pleasant things were going on. Maybe they were chopping heads off on a battlefield, or maybe they were the one lighting the fire to burn the witch at the stake, or, they played the villain, right, in the life. Everybody has. Everybody's been the victim and the villain and the savior and the bystander and the everything, right?
Yep.
And so the villain isn't necessarily, some sort of damned, evil entity. It's the villain is just another experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We all get to play the villain at some point in time.
Right. Or
Yeah.
like when people will come in and, if they've had an abusive father or abusive mother or whatever, I'm like, well, they also chose that person, the abuser chose to play that role,
Mhm.
to be the bad guy so that you could learn something from that situation. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's all aspects.
And I found that some of the biggest abusers, the biggest villains, when we find out, when we start unpacking all of the relationship, from a grand karmic, soul level perspective, sometimes they're the most, it's like the elder of the soul family kind of thing, this really advanced soul, because only that soul family member could incarnate with that kind of heaviness without building like repeated karmic kind of stuff,
Right.
if you really wanted a lesson that required a villain, sometimes it's one of your really elder, high up there spark family member that agreed to do that for you because they could without any sort of permanent repercussions.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep.
the biggest villains might be ascended masters. Oh, there's another
Exactly.
term for us.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got Kimberly says dark isn't in my vocabulary.
Yes.
Dark is part of the light, right?
Yep.
It's just the shadow. It's where the light is missing. It's not anything in and of itself. It's just missing light,
Mhm.
which means light always wins.
Yes.
Um, how do you know who to talk to, who to lean on? Oh, wait, before we go there, Jen, tell people how they can connect with you if they want a session with you. How do they reach out to you?
Sure. Well, my website's probably the fastest and easiest way. I'm at jenviviant.com. So my name, JenViviant.com. And also located on the Find a Practitioner page on the QHHT, which we all are. So it's a great catch-all, especially if I'm sure you're going to say this anyways, but if you're not near me or if you're not near these two and you still want to have a session, you can find out who's closer to you.
Yeah. Yep. And there are great level 1s and level 2s out there. We're level 3s. The meaning of a level 3 is we have been certified to be practicing exactly as Dolores herself practiced. There's great level 1s and level 2s out there, but I always throw the caution, if you're going to work with a level 1 or level 2, ask them one question. Do you practice exactly as Dolores did? And there's only one right answer. If they're doing QHHT. Yeah. Ellie, how do people get a hold of you?
My website is definitely the quickest and easiest way. So Full Circle Soul, QHHT.net. Wait, no, I'm sorry. That's my Instagram and all that. It's fullcirclesoul.net. Whoa.
FullCircleSoul.net.
.net. But yeah, also
FullCircleSoul.net.
Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, just Google Ellie Maher. You'll find me.
And QHHT official, of course. Awesome.
Yes.
Great.
And yes.
So Meredith says, that was my question. I know that the victim horrific childhood was my contract, but some tell me that is your karma. Was it both the lesson I wanted and my karma? I would say it was your lesson you wanted, not your karma. Now, we all want to play all the roles, right? We want to be the victim and the villain and the savior and the bystander in some sort of drama that's going on here. And that's the whole meaning of karma. Karma isn't sort of punishment or revenge. Karma is, ooh, I played the victim. Now I'm going to play the villain. Oh, I played the victim and the villain. Now I'm going to play the savior. Oh, I played the victim and the villain and the savior. Now I want to play the bystander. And so it's just this need to at a soul level, this desire to play all the roles. It's not payback or revenge. It's just this want to be, it's not like, okay, you were the villain, so now I have to be the victim, or you were the victim, now I have to be the villain. It's this, oh, cool, you got to see what it was like to be the villain. Now I want to see what it was like to be the villain. That's all. It's not revenge or paybacks. It's just the desire to have played all of the roles. So it was
It's a
the lesson
choice.
you wanted.
Yeah, it's a
out,
choice.
out
And
of
that gives
desire.
you the sovereignty, the knowledge that you had that power to decide that you wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I've never found any evidence, have you guys, of forced incarnation?
No.
No. We're all here because we want to be here. And we're all wearing the monkey suit we want to be wearing because that's the monkey suit we picked.
Yep.
Yep. All right. So how do you know who to talk to, who to lean on spiritually, or does it matter?
Just ask, right? Like whoever you need's gonna come. So just ask for what you need.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get what you need. You'll get the answers you're looking for.
What do you think, Jim?
I
Does
totally
it
agree.
does
Go
it
ahead.
matter? Does it matter, Ellie, that you have someone in mind?
I mean, you can. I mean, if you want to, let's say you have a mother who has passed away or something, and you're like, Mom, I really need help finishing my landscaping, or like I need to get through this. Please help me out, because maybe they were a great landscaper. Well, actually, my mom has that exact story with her deceased father, but yeah, so sometimes you can ask specifically, but if you don't know who to ask for, just ask, and the right help will come. The right answer will come. Just ask. It's endless,
And just
right?
and maybe keep asking if you feel I think sometimes people feel like they don't get answers. So I guess that goes back to something we were talking about a little while ago. Get more specific with your questions, or ask in a different way, try different angles, because sometimes the angle of the question, just like with humans, when we talk to each other, we don't always respond the same way depending on how the question was asked. So we can play with that.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. And I think just be open. Be open to who shows up. I didn't know Pladar existed before he showed up. Like he just showed up. So just being open to receiving who's going to show up, right? Having fun with it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Are there any other questions? Doesn't look like it. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you for a great conversation. This is so
Thank you.
much fun. Woohoo.
Thank you, Holly.
All right. Any last words for our listeners, Jen?
Trust and be open. Listen to the first thing that comes to mind.
Very good. Ellie?
Keep on keeping on. It's a wild ride, but it is worth it, and you will get everything you need out of it because that's what you came here for.
Yeah. Have fun. We talked a little bit about the dark. The more fear and fear-based belief systems that you have, guess who's attracted? So really go inside, understand where your fears are coming from, and just release them. There's no reason to fear, right? The more fear you hold, the darker things are. The more fear you release, the lighter things are.
Like the
Yeah.
mirror effect,
Yes.
right? Like what we
Yeah.
put out is what we get back, kind of. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody's saying thank you. Lots of hearts, red hearts and pink hearts and stuff. So